You and I have been on an exciting journey of surviving the siege. We've taken 3 steps so far. So we have cut off that flow of water, we have dealt with the vulnerabilities, and the last time we have created some height in the spirit. We've shifted our vantage point. Today we want to look at 2 additional steps that we can take. And the first one is we want to reinforce what already exists. So this is what Hezekiah did in 2 Chronicles chapter 32. The Bible tells us that he fortified himself with an additional wall. Now, it's really important to understand what he did. So sometimes when we build a wall up to protect ourselves and to defend ourselves, we build the wall on the inner side. So the wall gets closer to us and we limit ourselves more and more by building up walls so that people cannot get through. Hezekiah did not do that. Hezekiah built a wall outside of the walls that were already there. In other words, instead of limiting himself, he pushed back against the enemy. He took up more of the real estate on the outside of his curtilage and he extended himself. That's what we need to do if we're going to survive the siege, because we cannot afford to fortify ourselves and make ourselves smaller. No, we have to push out and make ourselves larger. The Bible talks about enlarging your territory. It talks about shifting the pegs of your tent and pushing them further back. That's what you want to do. You want to reinforce yourself with a wall, but that wall is not going to keep you close and in and more within yourself. It's going to extend you. It's going to push you beyond what you currently are. So you are fortifying yourself, but you're building a wall that is an outer wall. Remember, that's really, really important. That wall is important, but that shift is for you to go beyond, to push yourself beyond that. So you're solidifying yourself, but you're taking up more of the enemy's real estate. And I absolutely love that. So that would be your next step. But the next step after that then is that you now have to prepare for battle. So you have to secure the right weaponry to be able to fight. You need both then the offensive weapons and the defensive weapons, because once you do that, once you engage the enemy, once you advance against those who want to hold you under siege, you must expect a pushback. People don't easily sit back and watch you surviving. They are going to seek to come. So you have to be ready. You have to be prepared to deal with that response as you advance forward. And so did Hezekiah. The Bible tells us that he started to make swords and darts. So he prepared to fight by getting his darts and his swords together. Equally, we have offensive weapons that we can use. One of the weapons that we use is the word of God. I mean, that's so clear. Jesus used it as he dealt with the enemy. So as you're advancing, we need to have the word of God in our hearts and on our mouths, that we can speak it forth as we establish that additional wall. We have prayer. That's another offensive weapon where we intercede, we war in the realm of the spirit on behalf of our situation. We have praise. Oh man, let's not even begin to talk about how powerful the weapon of praise is. When depression wants to come and push you in under that siege, and you begin to lift your voice in praise and thanksgiving to God, you begin to push back with your worship. Oh, come on, somebody. I'm getting excited. You begin to use that weapon of worship to advance against the enemy. Those are some of the weapons that you use to push against the enemy. That weapon of praise. It's a powerful, powerful weapon. But then you have the defensive weapons. So again, as I said, there is going to be a pushback. How do you protect yourself? Well, the entire armor of God that is given to us in Ephesians chapter 6 really represents the defensive weapons. So your helmet of salvation, how you are thinking, is your mind purified? That to protect your mind. You've got the breastplate of righteousness. You're making sure that your heart is in the right place, and so that there's purity there's a rightness in your heart, and so your heart is protected. Your affections aren't going all over the place, because remember, you're under siege, so you don't want your affections going all over the place and putting you into trouble. You have your loins girded up with truth. You're making sure that as you interact, there is truth in your collaboration, there's truth in your interactions, because where there is no truth, there is a lack of trust. And where there's a lack of trust, your support system is going to come under pressure. So you want to make sure, as a defensive weapon, that your loins are girded up with truth. And then your feet are also covered. They're covered with the preparation of the gospel of peace. In other words, as you walk the journey, you're advancing against the enemy, but you're not seeking to have war with people who are not having war with you. You have a particular enemy in view, and you're dealing with that. So you're making sure that you do those things. And then, of course, you have got the shield of faith. You've got that, so that as the darts come, the darts of fear come, you quench it, you destroy it with faith. As depression comes, you destroy it with faith. As accusations come, you destroy it with faith. So you neutralize, you neutralize every dart with faith, because without it, it is impossible, the Bible tells us, to please God. So we've got those two steps that we've discussed in this section here. We want to reinforce ourselves. We're going to push outward. We're establishing our wall outward. We're taking up more of the enemy's grounds. We're not limiting ourselves. We are taking up more of the enemy's territories. So we're establishing that outer wall, and when we establish that wall, we're ready to fight. We're not sitting back and pretending as though we don't know what's going on. We are saying to whoever wants to keep us in this siege, bring it on. We are ready to fight you. We have the weapons that are necessary, both our offensive weapons and our defensive weapons, and we are ready to take on this siege. I know you are a survivor. And I know that right now you're thinking of the things that have hemmed you in. And like me, you have picked up that peg and you're advancing with your offensive and your defensive weapons. You are a survivor.